There is an old African proverb, if a village does not accept a child, it will burn it to the ground to feel warm. What similar cases from real life do you know? I had a friend in elementary school. His older brother was 11 years older than him, and his sister was 5 years younger than him. His parents came up with strict rules because of his older brother's misdeeds as a child. So if his sister did something stupid, my friend would be blamed because he had to stop her. His wants and needs were never considered. If he needed money, he was denied it because all the money went to his brother, who was in college. If he wanted to have friends over for a visit, he was refused because his sister wanted to have her friends over. He had to wear his brother's clothes, but of course his sister got new clothes. When he was 16, he went out to get food at night. As he was waiting for his food at the delivery window, someone hit his car hard from behind, caused serious damage to his parents' car. That driver took full responsibility and offered to pay for the repairs. Just an unfortunate accident. Well, his parents told him not to use the car. Because he had an accident, they held him responsible. And then he told them that if they took away his right to use the car, he would never let them use something that belonged to him. They punished him for those words. About 10 years went by, and he never gave them anything. Not money, not a car, not a chance to stay the night at his house. Once he literally forced them to stay in a hotel. He said he would forgive them if they apologized. As far as I know, they didn't apologize. By the way, his sister was involved in an accident a few years ago that was really her fault. And her parents not only paid for the repair of her car but also helped her pay for her car insurance. I work with children who have mental health problems, and they all suffer from family problems. We see the same picture over and over again. A child comes in whose parents have humiliated him for years and told him he's a piece of shite. Eventually the child starts to rebel, and the parents take it as proof that they were right all along. One kid I worked with had been in therapy with us for a couple of years, and he had parents like that. The father was always on the road, he was a truck driver. His mom had a personality disorder, she was emotionally abusing the child. Once, when his father was on the road, the boy killed his mother by bludgeoning her with a hammer while she slept. He then kept her body in the house for several days, mutilating the corpse before throwing the remains in the trash. Human resources cheated me, and that led to my not being promoted. I essentially put them in a position where there was no one to replace me. Then I messed up the formulas in Excel that I had once created for them and that allowed all the managers to save 6 hours a day. I didn't fix the error, which I knew should have resulted in huge fines, because it wasn't really my responsibility. Then I quit my job. $700,000 in fines, no one left in the company who knew how to schedule, no one left in the department who knew how to supervise, and the managers had a lot of extra work. That was the damage to the company. They started calling me to come back and fix everything. You can decide for yourself whether or not I complied with their request. In high school, I had a friend who was a straight-A student. He stayed at school or work as long as he could. It got to the point where he would sometimes spend only an hour or less at home. He always gave evasive answers to questions about the situation at home, but he told me with confidence that things were bad there. He was considered a lousy sheep in his family, to put it mildly. His parents had a little fortune. They weren't millionaires, but they were better off than most, and they had told him since grade school that he would always be useless and would never amount to anything in life. After graduating from college, he got a great job with a big pharmaceutical company and started making a lot of money. At the same time, his father's company, which had been in their family for generations, began an inspection initiated by the authorities. Unknown reported that the owner of the company was evading taxes, hiring migrants for almost nothing, and violating safety procedures, to name a few. When the dust settled and the family was able to assess the extent of the damage, my friend went to his parents' house. He brought with him a copy of the family company's violation document, which he gave to his lawyer to give to the authorities. The friend only said, "Well, who doesn't get anything done?" Me and the guy I went to school with were from a small village, a suburb of a big city. The people in the township were tight-knit, they were all very religious, almost all of them worked in the local stores, of which there weren't many. He was a skinny, short, nerdy, studious, and not particularly religious kid, and he was laughed at by almost all the residents. He was bullied at school, too. I only became friends with him because I always tried to stand up to bullies. Anyway, This guy went to university after school, got his degree, and changed a few jobs. Eventually he started his own company, worked his ass off, and decades later he sold his company for what he told me was over $150 million. That was around 2014. With the money came attention. Even though the whole township and all his relatives treated him like crap, they started coming to him with their hands out. His family, who disowned him, also decided that they had rights to his money. I would certainly like to say, he bought up all the stores, closed them, and fired all the employees, getting back at everyone, but that would be too simple and downright cruel. He could be understood, but no. He built about 100 houses in the township. There was a big IT company in the big city, and its employees were looking for housing in the suburbs closer to work. They became his buyers. He sold all the houses to young IT grads. I'm sure he had his own strategic plan to destroy the culture of the township. A culture built over many generations for at least 800 years. The cemeteries were full of families who lived there. There was a church where everyone got married. But that came to an end. Now the church is empty, no one uses it. The only natives left there are old people who won't be there in a decade or two. He still claims he just saw an opportunity to make a living. And that may have been the case. He invested his money to make even more money, that's for sure. But he didn't touch neighboring, similar townships. Apparently, he had a personal grudge against the residents of that particular township. Lousy, horrible teachers spent far more time mocking and humiliating students than they did teaching. Mockery and humiliation in class were the norm, and many students, including me, suffered psychologically from this. I took a job in university human resources, where I spent a great deal of time investigating, which greatly tarnished the reputations of these faculty members when it came time to review their contracts. Their salaries and bonuses had been monstrously cut, and they knew exactly who was responsible. I worked in a fast food restaurant and was the only employee who didn't smoke. Everyone else regularly went out for a smoke break, but since I don't smoke, I wasn't allowed to. Eventually, I approached the owner of the outlet about it, and he turned me down, so I decided to go to the company board. The management board gave the owner of the outlet a headache for turning me down. I ended up getting a nice bonus with my next paycheck. But when the restaurant found out it was me who complained about them, they fired me immediately. It turned out that they were violating the chain's rules about food preparation and storage, so I filed another complaint. The place was closed for several months, and my former boss had to pay a six-figure fine. I got into radio thanks to an instructor when I was in the cadet corps. Anyway, he was a bit of an oddball. It was noticeable that he was a little lost in society. Personally, I suspect he had an autism spectrum disorder, but who knows? When I left cadet school and went to university, we continued to communicate on Facebook. We were both in the same group of people who were into amateur radio. He liked to do everything by the book. He instilled in us how important it was to be responsible and conscientious when using radio waves. When talking to a new member, he always mentioned the importance of using only publicly available unlicensed channels with the correct power setting at a very low half-watt level. He explained this by saying that some Mrs. Miggins would be trying to reach her son, who was playing on the next street, and he wouldn't hear her on the phone. He was right about that. Besides, the law prohibits transmitting high-powered signals on such frequencies, although no one is punished for it. Anyway, someone got fed up with it, and he was expelled from the radio amateur group because of his lecturing. After unsuccessful requests to take it back, he installed a powerful antenna in his garden and connected to it a contrived amplifier with a 30-watt transmission system. That's really quite a lot of power. Now he turns it on for a few hours every day on the channel that the members of the radio club are using at that moment, to teach them a lesson in good manners. As a result, no one can use certain frequencies for hours on end because it feels like someone is having a one-way conversation on the air. Purely theoretically, he could be arrested, but it doesn't seem to bother him at all. I was at a birthday party once, and there was a bouncy castle. The birthday boy and his friends kicked out his little brother. As a result, he unplugged the lock cord and watched it deflate, to everyone's disappointment. Nice move, Mason. For a 12-year-old, you're really cool. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like it, and click on the bell so you don't miss the new video. It will help me promote my channel and create even more interesting content. Write your opinion in the comments. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Good luck, and bye-bye.